Welcome back. This is Ed the Finance Guy. Appreciate you tuning in. Please like, subscribe, helps the channel. If you have any suggestions, please let me know what you'd like me to speak about. I'm very open to different topics. I wanted to speak today about the different SBA programs that are out. You have a business, you need money, things were bad, you've been closed for the last few months, you lost a lot of business, and you're in trouble. And a lot of companies, a lot of businesses have closed, a lot of restaurants have closed, but the government did come up with a couple programs that were there to help people in need, to make sure they stay in business, that people that work for them don't go on unemployment. The first one is the PPP program, which is the Payroll Protection Program. It's part of the CARES Act, and the CARES Act is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. And in this act, you're able to get money to cover your payroll expenses mainly. The way they base it is they take whatever your monthly payroll is, multiply it by 2.5 times, and that's the amount of money that they give you. So for example, you have a $10,000 payroll, they'll give you $25,000. Now, it's forgivable. You don't have to pay that money back as long as you use the money for a specific reason. And that reason is you have to use it for payroll and for business expenses. A lot of people try to take money that they're getting from the government, go on vacation, buy a new car. Not a good idea, because you're going to end up, when they catch you, and they will, you're going to have to pay back 1.5 times whatever you took if you didn't use it properly. Now, originally, they came out with a $349 billion package, which ran out in 2 weeks. It was amazing how quickly, when I found out about it, it was only around for a few more days. They came out with an extra $200 billion. Now, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, he stated that he would prosecute people if they didn't use the money properly. And the money wouldn't be forgiven unless they used it over a 6-week period. And it had to be 75% payroll. So people got very, very nervous, because if they have a restaurant, people didn't come back to work. How am I going to pay people that didn't come back to work? I'm going to give them a salary anyway while they're collecting unemployment? It didn't make sense. So he scared a lot of people into deciding that they didn't want the money. So a lot of people took the PPP money and then returned it. And they even had a return date that you could return it without paying any interest by a certain date. So they've revamped this system maybe 4 or 5 times. Now the question is, they're giving you this money, they give you only a 4 or 5 week period to pay salaries, to use it for salaries. But how do you pay salaries to people that don't want to come back to work? They decided to come up with these programs to stop people from going on unemployment, yet what did they do? They're giving people an extra $600 pandemic unemployment. So people that are making $500 a week working are now making $1,100 a week not working. So they don't want to come back to work. So that's the problem. They came up with all these great plans, but they gave everyone unemployment insurance enough to cover more than what they're earning, so people don't want to go work right now. And I have clients right now that tell me they're not going back to work for 3 months. Now, this extra $600 a week that people are getting, it runs out July 31st. They were talking about expanding it to the end of the year, which I think would be a very big mistake, because you're going to see more and more people deciding to take the free money than to work. Now, there are new guidelines. The new guidelines are, if you have a criminal record in the past 5 years, they wouldn't let you apply for the PPP program. They lowered it to 3 years. That's one of the things that they did. So if you had a record from 3 years ago, you can't apply for the PPP. Instead of using 75% of the money for payroll, it's now 60%. So you have to use the money for business, rent, mortgage interest, expenses to run your business. But you only have to use 60% of that money towards payroll, which is actually very good, because you're having a problem getting people to come back to work for you anyway. So the fact that they're giving you the number, they lowered the number from 75 to 60, makes it a little bit easier for everybody. Also, businesses now have 24 weeks in order to use this money. Before it was 8 weeks, and 8 weeks was a ridiculous amount of time. So now you have 6 months to get the people back, or to hire other people to take the same job. And they want to make sure that if you had 3 people working for you in January of 2020, you have 3 people working for you again. So they want to make sure that you hire people back, that you're using it for business. We're using this money constructively to keep your business open. You're not closing your doors. You're not moving out in the middle of the night, leaving an empty store. You're hiring people back, and you're doing something good for the community. So there's also partial forgiveness. If you use, let's say 50%, or if you use a different percentage, they give you a partial forgiveness. Now, if some of that money has to be repaid and it's not completely forgiven, you have a 5-year loan at 1%. I mean, where are you borrowing money for 1%? I know the banks are only giving us 0.1% interest when we deposit money. But when we borrow money from the bank, they're charging us a lot more than that. So they're making a ton of money when you borrow. So again, it's very, very cheap money to get. So if you're going to take the money, use it for your business. If you don't need all of it for your payroll, you get a partial forgiveness and you pay the rest back over a 5-year period at 1%. This program has helped a lot of my clients. I got about 40 people this particular program. It kept their business open and it's going to help them survive all through the program. Now, if this virus continues, they're going to probably have more programs like that where people will be able to get additional funding. Now, remember also, important thing, PPP money, try to keep it separate. Don't put that money with your regular checking account money, with your business money, because at some point you're going to have to prove how you use this money. They're going to come in, they're going to say to you, well, what do you use this money for? Well, we used it for payroll. Well, let me see your checking account. Well, I put all the money from my PPP loan into my regular account. There's no way of determining what percentage of the money I used from my regular revenue than from the PPP money. So that's something also to consider. If you keep the money in a separate account and you make sure your payroll comes out of that account, you're able to show the government, the IRS, whoever is going to audit your records, if they audit your records, you'll be able to show them that here's the money that went for payroll, here's the money that went for rent, here's the money that went, and it's all in a separate account. I didn't commingle the funds. So it's very important. You hear a lot of people say to keep it separate. Some people say not to. Believe me, if you get audited, you're going to want to have that money in a separate account that you can prove that the money was specifically there for one reason. Appreciate everybody tuning in again. Please subscribe to the channel. Suggestions very well appreciated. I hope you're learning something from this show. This is Ed the Finance Guy. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll talk to you next time.